All right, Nick, let's talk about the Texas A&M Aggies. They get rid of Jimbo Fisher a few weeks ago. Now they are on the coaching search and they have finally found their new head coach. And I think this is the absolute perfect hire for them in multiple different ways. We're going to go in the article and talk about it on the other side, Nick. But I think this was one of the most picturesque, perfect hires for Texas A&M. Exactly what they needed at this point in time. Let's get in the article. It's from The Athletic. It says, Texas A&M's recent history is littered with a variety of coaching hires that haven't worked out. 2 decades ago, the Aggies hired Alabama's coach. 16 years ago, they hired a former NFL head coach. A dozen years ago, they hired an up-and-comer from the group of 5. And 6 years ago, they swung for the fences, hiring a former national championship winning coach. This time, Texas A&M made a sensible hire. Duke coach Mike Elko, who was the Aggies defensive coordinator from 2018 to 21, will be A&M's next head coach. Elko isn't going to win the press conference on arrival, fuse unlimited charisma, or bring a fistful of rings with him. What he will bring is something Texas A&M really needs right now: a smart, organized, disciplined leader who doesn't view himself as bigger than the program. The fact that Elko knows A&M from his 4 seasons there even has recruited some of his current players is a plus that will speed up the transition process. Now, Nick, I think there's a lot of reasons to like this hire, but I think one thing we learned with the A&M hiring of Jimbo Fisher is there was almost at times 2 different things. There's what Jimbo Fisher wanted to do, and there's what was best for Texas A&M. What was best for Jimbo Fisher, not always what was best for Texas A&M. Getting the flashy 5 stars, not necessarily recruiting the players that were the best fits for the team. I think finally that A&M has got themselves a coach that has the team's best interests in mind. This is a guy, he's sensible, down to earth, disciplined, as they said. This is a guy who knows what Texas A&M is all about. Heck, he was here for 4 years as a defensive coordinator. He left, got some success at Duke, but not too much success. He's not a household name. This isn't a guy that's going around the country on, speaking engagements once he retires from college football. This is a guy who knows football. He's good at his job, and apparently he wanted to come back to Texas A&M. You go there, go to Duke, and then comes back to what a really great job for him was before. Comes back to Texas A&M, comes home, and he does a lot of great things. I think it's a great hire for Texas A&M. I want to know what your thoughts are on everything Texas A&M and the Elko hire. But Texas A&M fans, before we hear from Nick, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this hire? How does this coach fit this team? Is this the perfect hire for Texas A&M? Let us know in the comment section below. But Nick, what do you got on A&M and Elko?
Yeah, so when this was first announced, I had to pause and think about it, right? Like I'm sure a lot of Aggies fans did. Like, okay, Elko, good job at Duke. How's he going to fit in with A&M? Was obviously great as a defensive coordinator, especially when they beat, I think it was in the Orange Bowl, and they finished number 4 in the AP rankings final a couple of years ago with Kellen Mond behind center. That was sort of the last great Aggie team we've had over the past couple of years. How good of a hire is this really going to be? And then I took a step back and I watched the football over rivalry weekend, and I watched the Dan Lanning led Oregon Ducks demolish Oregon State as they prepare for a chance to fight for the college football playoff. I watched the Kirby Smart-led Georgia Bulldogs annihilate Georgia Tech as they also prepare for their conference title game, again, a chance to get into the college football playoff. And I was thinking, we talked about this a few weeks ago, A&M needs their Kirby Smart. They need a football guy, an energetic young presence who can come in and be just the right, steady, consistent force. They don't need the celebrity coach. The celebrity coach doesn't win anymore. Look at Chip Kelly at UCLA, right? Celebrity coach. How's that going for UCLA? They want him gone. How about Lincoln Riley at USC? How's that working for people over there? 2 coaches in Los Angeles are both really struggling. And of course, Jimbo Fisher at A&M is an excellent example of just that as well. You want a smart, young, energetic guy who can come into the fold, be a motivator, be a recruiter, but most importantly, knows football at a high level. And there's no doubting what Elko knows as a defensive guy, as a football guy. He's an absolute brilliant guy on the level of a Kirby Smart, on a level of a Dan Lanning. And that's what we've seen that wins in today's day and age in terms of college football. The Dabo Sweeney, Nick Saban era, look, we know it's on the decline. That's the reality of it, right? Nick Saban is still great because Alabama is Alabama. But the reality is we are in the era of youngerish, smart, talented guys who know ball who are able to motivate their players to overcome their talent, to achieve things better than their talent. And that's what Elko's guys did at Duke. And I think that was the biggest problem at A&M, to be totally honest with you. Obviously, like you alluded to, all those 5 stars, but they never played up to their talent level, whether it was coaching strategy, whether it was motivation, whatever it was. I guarantee you, you bring Elko into the fold, a lot of those problems will go away. I think this was the best move we've seen out of A&M, and frankly, any coaching hire since Oregon hired Dan Lanning away from Georgia. I really think this is that good of a move. And we've seen what it's done for Oregon. And I think this has the same kind of ability to revitalize this A&M program the way hiring Kirby Smart from Alabama did for Georgia. I really think it has this kind of impact. I want to give a lot of credit to the A&M athletic department, their boosters, everybody, for understanding that, because we've seen a lot of programs screw this up, and A&M has been one of them, to be totally honest. This time they got it right in terms of their head coaching hire, and this report here kind of highlights a lot of those reasons. And I tell you what, Aggies fans, this is the best I felt about this program, I think, maybe in my lifetime. Like, this is a really good trajectory they're on right now down in College Station.
Yeah, Nick. And Elko, he brings a lot to the table, and there's a lot to look forward to as far as the future for the Aggies. Coming into his first year at Duke, he was able to win 9 games with a roster that had much less talent than they do at College Station. You look at A&M coming in this season, fourth best rated roster in all of college football. If you go by 24/7 Sports rankings, you look at what Sonny Dykes did when he came into TCU, arguably again, much less talent. He was able to come in, turn that team around, get them to a college football playoff game. Didn't fare so well in the end, but getting there, that's half the battle. This Texas A&M team, a lot of talent with a great young coach who's done a lot with younger, not as talented, but still talented programs. And Duke got them to bowl games in back-to-back years. I think this is a team that can really benefit from a guy like Elko, and I think that he can benefit from this team as well because he has a lot more to work with than you've ever had in his life.